Welcome. This is my first live show of the year of 2025. So happy 2025. I hope that you had the most restful holiday season. I hope. I know mine was, I wouldn't necessarily call it restful. It was very fun. But I have two little ones, as most of you know. So it's not really like we had the most restful, but we had a lot of fun. We were able to be together, and that was what mattered. And so as you're coming in, let me know where you are coming in from. I would love to know. I have a lot of my friends who I've met through the virtual assisting space. So I would love to know if you are a virtual assistant, if you're looking into becoming a virtual assistant, or maybe you're looking to hire a virtual assistant, because that is something that I get often in my inbox is people wanting to hire an assistant. And when we talk about virtual assistants, it's really hard because there's such a wide idea of what a virtual assistant does for somebody. So oftentimes it can be inbox management all the way up to social media management, and email marketing help and website development. And it's a little bit difficult to be on both sides of the coin, both like somebody trying to hire a virtual assistant and somebody who is a virtual assistant trying to price and share their services. My personal story is I found virtual assisting when I was in a space where I needed to work remotely. And I unfortunately kind of went through, I think, a pretty common trajectory. So I'm going to ask Tricia about it when she gets on here. But I started out with a um, virtual assisting company, and unfortunately, it didn't end very well. And I ended up having to kind of exit that space for a little while, and stop really using that term because it just didn't quite sit right. And so I'm interested to hear Trisha and like her story and how she got to where she is. She has been doing virtual assisting for 10 years. I've been doing it for 5 in this space of whatever we want to call, virtual assisting. But she's really on it. She's helping other virtual assistants kind of figure out what their specialty is so that they can charge premium prices and serve better. So I'm really excited for her. LaShonda, thank you for being here. We both are connected through LaShonda, and oh, I can't say enough good things about her. I'm sure Trisha agrees. She's amazing. So thank you for being here. And this is Trisha. Hi.
Hi,
How are you doing today?
I'm good. And you?
Good, good.
Mm.
Thank you so much for being here. I want to hear, how do you define virtual assistant?
So for me, virtual assistants are solutions, problem solvers, just amazing, epic people. A lot of persons I find think of virtual assistants as persons who just do administrative or boring tasks, as they like to call them. But a virtual assistant, in my opinion, is literally like an entrepreneur's sidekick or like second hand man or like you have to have so much trust in a virtual assistant as an entrepreneur because
Mm-hmm.
of the tasks and stuff that we get as virtual assistants be so like top tier and demanding. Like if you don't do a good job, there's a high possibility that you could possibly crash this person's business or cause a big, big like fire or something. So like for
Yeah.
me, virtual assistants are problem solvers, they're solutions, they are some of the most amazing people in the world, to be honest.
Yes. Yeah, so I think that that was something as I came into this space that I really didn't understand even as a virtual assistant stepping into the space. But like, you get access to people's credit cards, you get access to their logins, you could make them look silly on social media. Like, you have a lot of, there has to be that trust there. And I think it goes both ways too. I think you have to trust your client as much as they trust you, because really together you're building whatever it is that they're building, and
Mhm.
you have to feel really invested. And I think that's where the magic's happened for me is on like with those clients of mine where we have both like seen the vision together, um,
Mm-hmm.
kind of like figured out like, oh, like I can bring some ideas because I actually understand like the nitty-gritty of their business.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but a lot of times I struggle with getting clients to let me in that way because once I get that trust, I feel like that's kind of where the magic happens. But early on, I really struggled to communicate what I was good at and how I could help the entrepreneur reach the next level.
Mm-hmm.
Um, how do you I guess my first part of the question is how do you figure out what you're good at in this space?
So I recommend for persons to figure it out using, I have this like methodology called the SPM methodology. And it basically stands for skills, passions, and sorry, you're reading the Shonda comment. I still this.
I That's why live shows are fun though, is because you get the yeah. Okay, keep going.
It literally stands for skills, passions, and needs. So what I recommend for persons to do is I have this little worksheet because they love to put pen to paper and they love to do everything in structure or strategies. So I have the person ask some questions to themselves and like figure out what skill sets they already have. Notice that already have and not that they don't have to go out there and learn. What passions
Mhm.
they already have as well. And then we connect those skills and passions together. And then we search the market to see if there's a need for this skill and passion mix or matrix. So for example, you may be into your passion maybe weddings and you have a skill in terms of event planning, so that would be a good match. I have had some weird ones in the past, like people that actually like pets that ended up being VAs for specifically like pet stores or veterinarians and stuff like that. But that's basically the idea. But we really emphasize on making sure that the skill and passion mix actually has a need in the market, because you don't want to go out there and start
Yeah.
selling something that nobody wants or like that there's not a demand for, so to speak. Um, so yeah, so that's basically how I would say in terms of choosing what you should offer or like what services and stuff you should start to get into.
Yes, yes. So I know for me, when I was first in this space, I was trying to do all of the things, right? And trying to be, I had one client who was a executive at a startup tech company, and then another one who's a solopreneur in like a marketing space, and trying to balance both spaces was really hard for not only like my brain, but my workflow, I think. And so I do love LaShonda's comment here that's saying, how do you balance being a virtual assistant with motherhood? And I have so many things to say on this topic because that is how I came into the space of virtual assisting. Is I found out I was pregnant and we didn't have an option for childcare and I needed to work from home. And so this was something that as I've grown into this job, have had to set different boundaries and different systems to keep me productive. And one of my very favorite things is I separate my tasks into brain power, how much brain power each task takes me. So, a level one task I can do while a kid is screaming at me for fruit snacks. And a level three task is something that, like, I can't have any distractions. I have to sit and like focus. For me, that's a lot of like drafting and writing.
Mhm.
So when I get my to-do list, LaShonda, I kind of go like, okay, this is a level one, this is a level three. And then throughout the day, because as we know, children we don't have schedules that great. Like there's schedules, there's nap time, there's things like that. Um, but I do like my level one when I'm awake and those are like the 5 minute, 10-minute things that I can kind of do while I have the kids around. And then like my level three tasks are for nap time and bedtime or when I have childcare, when my husband's home, those kinds of things. Do you
Mhm.
have any suggestions for people who are like either balancing motherhood or other jobs? Because I know a lot of times people do virtual assisting as like a side hustle at the beginning.
Yeah, so I would say it depends on your schedule and like as you mentioned, like your brain power and stuff. Because like for me,
Mhm.
for example, when I started, I had a 9 to 5 job, and my son. Well, I started working remotely before my son came, but after he came, he was a baby then, and I still had a 9 to 5 job. So for me, it was a case where that I was going to work throughout the day, and then at night I was up doing the virtual assistant job. But
Mhm.
now it's more a case of I try to do all of the important stuff when he's at school because he goes to school between 8 to 3. And then when he gets back home, then I would do the stuff that is like I don't need to got my head into it so
Yeah.
much. But I would definitely advise for mothers specifically to just like sit back and take a look at their current schedule, how their brain works, how like they work best, or like is their best times to crunch through work and like put their best foot forward, and then plan like their tasks and stuff around that, so to speak, as opposed to trying to consistently always be on. Because as
Yes.
much as we feel as we crush it, yes, and we do so good as virtual assistants doing all of these tasks. And like every time a client asks to do something, it's like yes, 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 and their clients be like, "Oh my God, you're so amazing because you get all of these things done, like everything like
Here's
that."
more.
It's, it's like you need to balance. You need to balance it based on like your life. You have to put your personal like self care and your family as a priority, and then try to work everything around that, so to speak. That's how I found that it was more manageable, and then I didn't feel guilty as to like I know like paying close attention to my family and stuff like that. Because then I
Yes.
get highly frustrated, I get snappy.
Yeah. Oh,
So
yes. Me too.
I try my best to do all of the stuff that could possibly irritate me before my son gets home or
Yes.
someone else, so that they can have a good Tricia when everybody's here, so to speak.
Yeah, the other thing that I started doing that really helped me with that is my family is one of my clients. So I have my board with all of my client names and my to-dos for my clients. And I also have family on the board. So that way my brain is thinking of my family as like a client because I recognize sometimes I'd be crushing it at work. Like I'd be doing all of the things. Everybody thinks I'm just crushing it. My house is a mess, like every you know what I mean? And I realized, that doesn't work. That doesn't work for us. So I literally have like dishes, call the doctor, like that's on my board. Um, and I think that it's really hard for anybody who works remotely, I think, to kind of juggle that. But I do think that, like, in this space specifically, there's a lot of mothers who do this work, which is great and wonderful. But oftentimes when you come into this work, you don't understand how much goes into it. I think on both fronts, on like a client's front and on a virtual assisting front, I think that it's often miscommunicated how much virtual assistants can help and grow your business because I
Mhm.
think people are always thinking like, "Oh, they can like manage my calendar." And then you look back after working together for 3 months and you're like, "Oh, at this point they're like, you know, updating my website." So how do you as a virtual assistant communicate those boundaries well?
I would say, to be honest, that is kind of partly the virtual assistant to blame. And
Yes.
hear me out, because this is why I talk so much about like being a specialist and like specializing and stuff like that. Because if you offer a specific set of services, I personally don't count like email management and calendar management, all that stuff as services, because those are generic things that everybody under the sun does, to be honest. But like now when you come to like podcasting, or like you have to write show notes and stuff like that. I mean, yes, we have AI to do it and stuff like that. No, but a human touch can't be replaced by AI, one. And two, if you well versed within the specific area or something with up the podcast, or like say you did a course, or like you're generally interested in podcasting and like you would watch all types of videos and like you just happen to learn certain tips and tricks that other people wouldn't necessarily know that have a podcast but
Mhm.
not into podcasting like how you would be into it because it's a passion, then that is what you should necessarily be pushing or selling. So if they come to you and ask you, well, I know that I hired you specifically to do podcasting or whatever. One, I would have a separate fee, like that would not be included within my retainer. I don't usually advise hourly rates, but
Mm.
that would not be included within my retainer. One and two, me and my client would need to have a good understanding as to like, hey, this is something I can do, but it's not something that I intend to continue to offer to you. If you would love for me to
Mm.
continue doing this, well then you're gonna need to pay me some more change. So
Mhm.
like
Mhm.
cost to this is not added to the package that we agreed on in the beginning. And that's where I
Yeah.
find so many virtual assistants slip up, because it's okay to offer your services as an hourly virtual assistant, but if you stick there, because I stayed there too. Don't get me wrong.
Mhm.
I started there, and then it was only after I started running into so many different problems in terms of trying to justify my value and why like, I feel like
Mhm.
it should be raised. Is then when I notice it's best to hit these people with a package or a retainer, and then if you want something outside the scope of the package that I created, either specifically for you or for whatever services it is that I offering, but then that would be a separate fee, and it's usually a higher fee than a package fee, so to speak. Because the idea is for you to get them to understand like I can do this, yes, but it's not something that I want to offer for various reasons. Because most of the time, things that clients ask you to do that is outside the scope of what you agreed upon. It's stuff that you don't want to do most
Mhm.
of the time. So if it's something that I know I don't want to do, you got to pay.
Yes, and that I think so I've fallen into that so many times because and I think this is a natural and good thing that happens when you start working with somebody. They say to you, "Okay, I only want you to tackle this, this, and this. I'll pay you this amount for it," right? And then if you do those things well, they're like, "Hey, what about this? Hey, what about this?" And you can so quickly, and I've done it way too much. Dig myself into a little hole of like very like
Mhm.
specific things for each different client that don't connect. And there's like not really like a through line between clients because I'm like, oh, well, they asked me to do this. And then I ended up doing this. Um, so I think that that's really a really smart way of doing like, here's the package, very clear. Here's what's included. Anything outside of that package,
Mhm.
anything needs to be paid.
I would advise though on that to you should always have a contract, to be honest, with any
Mhm.
package or retain or anything. So I would say probably go through the contract with them in more fine detail and what's not. Like actually on a call and not necessarily be like have the consultation and then they sign and then like, I feel like we should take more responsibility in terms of going through the contract, because that could help in the long run to
Yeah.
help with some of these issues that we get. But I like to say those clients that are for you or that you should work with, or your ideal client, as most of the internet is call it, tend to be people that you actually enjoy working with.
Mhm.
So even for
Yes.
me, within my coaching business, if I just find a lot of I meet all kinds of different people, to be honest. And if I find a virtual assistant that I have to like really like, or as we were saying, Barbara, just give her my rib to convince her that she should really start niching or like looking at specialized services. I just let her be because she's in the unaware stage in my funnel right now. So like
Mhm.
more of my content is what's gonna necessarily nurture her, but I'm not gonna sit and like argue with her and be like, oh my god, you need to do da 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 because I pushing her into this, and then when she comes on, she's gonna be a pain. So I rather work with somebody that understands like what I have to offer, what I'm
Yeah.
asking, and put us on the same page, than like it's some sort of mix or hiccup that I could have avoided by explaining or being a bit more explanatory from the beginning.
Yes. Okay. So I do have something to add on that, but I want to make sure we talk to Carrie real quick. She says, I find it very difficult to get people to understand the prepayment of the package before the work. So when you
Mhm.
say a monthly retainer, like how are you presenting that to your clients?
It depends on the industry, I would say, because some industries vary. Like, for example, some people will offer social media packages weekly, and then some people will offer social media packages monthly. So it depends on how you want to structure that and the industry. But in terms of getting people to understand the prepayment of the package before it works, you need to and when I say you, it's not like talking specifically to Carrie, but
Mhm.
like you in general, you need to help your client to understand why they need to pay into this value. So
Mhm.
like I find sitting and having the normal or real conversations with people help them to understand. So you literally having a conversation with them on a consultation and we agree this could work, whatever the case may be, if we start to talk money, let them know upfront, Val, I have a retainer. I need you to pay to make a prepayment before I can start working because A, B, C, X, Y, Z.
Mhm.
If they can't understand that in simple terms, they aren't for you. Because if
Mhm.
they can't understand that, they need to pay an amount upfront before you start to deliver your services. After you explain it with good reason why it is you need to have this payment upfront before you start working with them. Imagine what's going to happen if they have to have a hiccup while you were working with them. They aren't going to listen to you either. So it's like small cues sometimes throughout the sales process when we actually talking to these clients and pitching clients that we miss our slate or see as not so important, so to speak. I
Mhm.
mean, people will have questions, but you as a virtual assistant have to understand and believe that you are valued what you are charging. The moment
Yes.
you allow them to feel like, oh, I would work for probably like I would do $1,000,
Mhm.
but for you, I would do 800. You setting up yourself because that's like telling your client, well, in the long run, you could ask me for a discount. That's
I know
literally.
that the clients of mine that I've made special exceptions for or like reduced my prices for,
Mhm,
in the long run have been it's just sticky, right? Like it's just like everything is up for negotiation. Everything is well, can you do this and not this? Like for example, one of my non-negotiables is my clients have to be willing to use Notion because that's how my whole team works. That's where we keep all of our stuff clean. And when I first started saying that, I was not confident in myself on it because Notion's it's hard to learn. There's a little bit of a learning curve, and this is still something I'm struggling in my business with of like helping my clients learn Notion. But once I get them in the system, it's so much smoother for everybody involved. But early
mhm,
on, when I was not so confident that Notion was right, I would be like, "Oh, it's fine. We don't have to do Notion for you. That'll reduce the price for this." And then they would get lost in emails and like things would just like not be getting done smoothly. And
mhm,
I've had several clients that I wish I could have worked with, but there was just some things that it was like, if you won't use the project management tool I use, I can't take you on because I won't perform well for you. I won't get the work done right. You know what I mean? And that was really hard for me to accept. Like, it's okay to let some of those clients go because Shelby, in the long run, the math does not math. Like, it won't work.
right. And
um,
that's actually setting a boundary that's going to help you set up yourself and your business for success.
mhm. Okay, let's see what Carrie is saying. Most have been coaches what clients prepay for their packages themselves before delivering their own services to those clients, but they won't prepay. That's interesting. That's really funny, Carrie, because I can understand that. And I think it's hard to communicate your worth as a virtual assistant, I feel like, because oftentimes people don't uh, put the value where they need to on that. And I think we just let those people figure it out. I think the people that understand the value will
Mhm.
find us. I do believe that. Let's see. LaShonda says, I always say a payment is due to secure the project, and I prioritize projects based on those deposits. Ooh, I love that. I prioritize the projects based on those deposits. LaShonda, that just like blew my mind because I have had that whole like trying to track down payments thing, also
Mhm.
trying to do all their work even though they haven't paid me yet. And I love that idea of just being like, well, okay, so and so paid me. I'm gonna prioritize kind of thing. Um, yes.
Add to what Carrie had said though, I would say for that issue that she's having, I personally won't work with those persons anymore. And it has
Okay.
to be certain cues that each of these different coaches that gave her this problem is exhibiting. So I would say take note of those cues and add it to your list because they actually have a red flag list for clients, but add it to your red flag list.
I
And
love that idea. The red flag list.
the
I love that.
moment you notice this person exhibiting one of these red flags, you may go and shift them down
Yeah.
within the list of persons to work with or whatever the case may be. But the LaShonda's advice is a really, really, really good idea as well. And just basically show them you have to pay me in order for you to prioritize you. Mhm.
Yes. I will say I want to touch on creating content and your
Mhm.
own personal like brand and projects because I really did not prioritize that early on in my business because I was doing all the busy work for the other clients that the last thing I wanted to do was hop on and produce my own content because I was producing shows for other people. I was writing show notes for other people. Me doing my own content, and still to this day, does not usually get in the priorities as well. But I
Yeah.
will say once I started prioritizing my content, whew, it was so much easier because the clients who were coming to me already knew what I was doing, already knew what I was good at. They knew that I do live shows using StreamYard. Maybe they already use StreamYard and they needed help. And it was so much easier when I started putting out my own content to
Mhm.
attract the clients to me that understood my worth and understood like my talents, I guess, because really before I produced my own content, I was my clients would come to me based off of my other clients' content, if that makes sense, because I'm in the social media space.
Mhm.
My clients' content would attract clients to me. And that's when I started being like, there's something to this. Like, there's something to putting that out there. So, Carrie, I would just say if you can produce some content of what you enjoy doing and what you're good at, that for me has been a game changer. I'd love to hear your perspective on that too.
Another thing I would say too is to show them a system or a process because that's what
Oh,
helped me scale. I started
okay.
creating, especially if I noticed I was doing something repetitive, I started creating systems or
Mhm.
processes, and I would do it, like literally do it before I actually pitch it to the entrepreneur. And then so they it's kind of almost put them in a spot that they can't say no because they literally was doing it for the past 3 months and it was working and you was like, it works. So like this is the same system now that I'm showing you. And that was a way, that was one of the ways that I actually justify raising my rates and stuff like that.
Mhm.
But in terms of on consultations, that was another way too where I was pitching why I need a retainer. So I don't know, Carrie, if that's something you may want to start doing, but small things like maybe a little video or just
Mhm.
walking through the process on the call as to the system, showing the system as to whatever it is that they're paying you for. So say for example, you were I don't know, a Pinterest specialist or something, that you just happen to know a lot about Pinterest and you decided to create a system or this process that creates all the images in Canva, publishes all the pins, get all the post descriptions and the headlines and stuff like that for the pins. And you have this process that will usually take an entrepreneur like 45 minutes, but for you it takes 10 minutes. And you show the
Mhm.
person how you do this, how you have all the tracking, how you have all the analytics and stuff to see like how the post going and stuff like that. I keep saying people tend to pay for processes they pay for solutions as well.
Mhm.
So if off the bat you could show that without having to hammer somebody and be like, will you work with me, or I want to work with you, or whatever the case may be, is like you automatically showing them from the get-go you have perceived value that you should be paying me for. So you will find yourself in a position where you don't necessarily have to sell as hard, because
Mhm.
from there you positioning yourself now as a specialist, just necessarily a virtual assistant.
Yes, I just that's another reason I went away from the hourly rate
Mhm.
because I recognized that things I was doing repetitively, I got better at. And when I
Yeah,
got better at my job, I was getting paid less at my job. Do you get what I mean? And that like almost demotivated me to create those systems because it was like, well, if I create a system that like will take me 10 minutes versus that hour, like why would I do that if I'm getting paid hourly? But the other thing I personally, back to LaShonda's point of like balancing motherhood and this job, for me, my time is it's more useful to me to have time. Well, I guess we all need money. I won't say that, but like time motivates me a lot because I want to spend as much time as I can away from the screen, out with my kids. And if I can figure out a system that takes me away from my screen, but still gets the work done efficiently, oh, I'm all about it. And it attracted so many clients to me that also believed in that. I have a lot of clients who believe in time away from their computers, but still performing well, kind of thing. So, okay, we're at our 30 minutes. So just kind of what would you first of all, anybody who wants to kind of figure out your specialty, please reach out to Tricia. Here is her the remote catalyst is her website, and there is a QR code on our ending screen that will take you to her email sign up that you should definitely be a part of. What what do you want to say as like our last tip to anybody who's interested in this space or even anybody interested in hiring a virtual assistant?
Well, to virtual assistants, I would say to start seeing yourself as a solution and not necessarily just another VA, or like that is just a
Yes.
job. Start seeing yourself just as important as the entrepreneur, because some of these entrepreneurs cannot live their lives or do their jobs without us virtual assistants. And then to the entrepreneurs, I would say please be more empathetic. Also, please be more understanding and see virtual assistants as are on the same level or like as you would see your CEO job, because at the end of the day, a virtual assistant is a CEO, but just of her business. But I find some employers that I've worked with in the past, these will be red flag people, see VAs as like not so important or a down in the dirt job, so to speak.
Yep. Yep.
Mhm.
Yep. And I've seen that too. And I will say the more successful entrepreneurs are not viewing virtual assistants as that. The people with super successful businesses that have that virtual assistant that they're just like, oh, this is my right hand. I love them. Just raving about their virtual assistants. Y'all should see their pay. Like they are getting paid. They're getting paid because they are prioritizing and they're paying their virtual assistants. Like there are entrepreneurs out there. If you are somebody in the virtual assisting space who is just feeling like people aren't treating you right, please, please walk away from those people because there are so many awesome entrepreneurs looking for somebody who will help them move their business forward. Because
Yeah,
and listen, please reach out to me. Please reach out to Trisha. I know that both of us can kind of like um, recommend certain places to find those clients. They are out there and they're incredible. They're incredible. And there's more of those type of people to go around than you think. This is I personally feel like this space is so powerful um, to make money online, and
yeah.
there's enough work for everybody right now. I don't feel like
He
there's
said that
scarcity of
a
this.
lot of people feel that the virtual assistant market is saturated, but it only seems like that because almost every virtual assistant wants to offer the same thing. And then if you offering the same thing that 1,000 other people are offering, why should they pay you $100 more than they should pay her? So it's even harder not to justify yourself within the space because you're basically just doing everything that everybody else is doing.
Yes. So
Mm-hmm.
get your specialty figured out. Get Tricia to help you get your system figured out. And I just there is work and money to be made, and I think that this space is really, really powerful if you get connected to the right people. And I know that I am willing to talk to you about it. I know Tricia's willing to talk to you about it. But just thank you, Carrie, for being here and participating in the conversation. LaShonda, we obviously both love you very much and your community. Anybody who's joining who doesn't know LaShonda, click on over to her page because she's doing incredible things and teaching incredible things. So thank you, Tricia, so much for being a part of this. And I'm looking forward to all of your work. I've already dove into your website like crazy, and I'm just excited for everything you're doing. So thank you.
You're welcome.